Hey, it's Irina Pozan, and welcome back to the Career Cravings Podcast. This podcast has a simple mission. It's to help ambitious professionals like you build the career and life that you've been craving. Over the past 15 years, I've worked as an HR leader, designed hiring systems, led recruitment teams, and I've sat on the other side of the hiring table. I've seen what works in today's job market, what doesn't, and what separates those good candidates from the ones that actually land their dream roles. Now I'm bringing everything I've learned straight to you. Each episode is packed with actionable insights and tools to help you land your dream role sooner. Now let's dive in. Welcome back to the Career Cravings Podcast. I'm your host, Irina Pozan, and I am so excited to dive into today's episode because I know this is something that you likely have struggled with, because I know so many job seekers, especially in this market, are struggling with this. So if you've ever gone into an interview, it went super well. You thought, this would be an amazing fit. You start envisioning your life. You start thinking about what it would be like to work at this organization, getting really, really excited, maybe telling your friends and family about it, only to get that dreaded rejection email or phone call that this one is for you. I know I have personally been there, and I get how much rejection can hurt, but I also want to talk about, I personally have been there and I know how this can hurt. But here's the thing, rejection is just redirection. It's the universe directing you to something better. So in today's episode, I'm diving into why rejection is not personal and how you can actually use those no's as a powerful stepping stone towards landing your dream job. We're going to be talking about practical tips, mindset shifts, and the strategies you need to bounce back stronger, to realign your approach and keep moving forward towards that dream job. Today, I'm giving you the pep talk you need with practical steps to pick yourself up, realign your strategy, and move forward stronger than ever. Let's do this. So I want to take you back to 2020. I was in the final stages for two dream roles. They were both HR director roles at two different organizations. And I was so excited going into both. And there was so much work involved. I spent hours prepping for those interviews. The interviews were scheduled within the same week, and I had spent so much time preparing my 90-day plan, all of the steps I would take, researching the companies, and really the impact that I would have. And I visualized what it would be like to have either one of those roles. And I thought, you know what? The interview process is going so well. I'm like, okay, well, I'm in final stages for two roles. So I'm going to get one, right? Because at the very final stages, you're often going up against only one other person. So I'm like, amazing. With a 50-50 shot at both, I'm going to get one, right? So I was so excited. I was envisioning my resignation at this point. Within the same week, back to back, I was rejected for both roles. And I took this really hard because I had spent so much time preparing and I was exhausted. So to get this news as well, it didn't even make sense at the time. I was crushed. I was also really surprised. It didn't make sense to me at the time. And I was just so burnt out from putting in so much energy interviewing, going back to back with these interviews. I went on site for both, and I met the leaders in one of the organizations. I met the whole team. After all of that, breaking the news to my friends and family who knew how hard I worked and how much I was preparing for these, and reliving it all over again by sharing the story with them was terrible. And I started doubting myself. I told myself, maybe I'm not ready. And I rationalized that I had a good, stable job. Maybe I should just stay put and be grateful. And with the pandemic kind of starting to loom, I'm like, okay, maybe it's better. And looking back, I could see how easy it is to fall into that mindset when things get really hard and when things don't go as we planned. So I truly planned to move into one of these organizations and start working there. But here's the truth. Neither of those roles were meant for me, but I didn't know it at the time. I know that now because hindsight is 2020, and I completely understand that now. But back then I was just crushed. And what I later learned, which I also didn't know then, was when the right opportunity comes along, it feels effortless. And not long after that, the right job actually found me without even applying. So the interviews flowed naturally. The process moved quickly. And then in that role, it was meant to be. I felt like I had created that role from scratch for myself. The experience taught me that rejection isn't the end of your story. It's just part of the journey to show you what is meant for you. So if you're in a place right now where this is resonating and you've also been rejected for a role that you really wanted, and maybe it left you feeling stuck or burnt out or ready to give up, I want you to hear me loud and clear. Your time is coming. Rejection is just redirection. It's the universe nudging you towards something even better that you might not even be able to see right now. So I know this to be true from the very core of my being. And I also know that mistakes don't happen. Every single thing happens for a reason. I want to share an analogy with you. I live on a really, really old street that has the most gorgeous maple trees that line the entire street. And this is the street where the whole neighborhood comes to walk because there are these huge canopies. And no matter the season, it looks stunning. In the winter, is beautiful snow. In the fall, it has all of these colors just exploding. And in the summer, even better. They're so lush and green and they are beautiful. And these trees are actually part of the reason we decided to buy our home. We just felt like we were coming from a really new house that was in a subdivision and there was no life, there was no trees, and we were really craving exactly this, what we have today. And when our house was built, there was a forklift that backed up into one of our huge old trees. And about a year later, it died. So a year later, we had to take it out. It was heartbreaking. We had to break those canopies. And rejection is like losing a tree. In the moment, it feels like a loss, but it's actually clearing space for something stronger and healthier to grow. So what we did was end up planting 2 brand new trees, and they're little. Do they compare to those beautiful, huge oak trees? No, but they are growing. And to be honest, eventually all of the neighbors are going to lose their old trees as well, because that's just the cycle of life. But our new trees will be mature by then. They're going to be thriving. They're going to look beautiful and they'll be full. And rejection is like losing a tree. It feels like a loss at the time, but it's clearing space for something so much stronger and healthier to grow. Okay, so going back to 2020 in my job search, going back to 2020 in my own job search, there was something I didn't share with you yet. And it was this. One of the organizations that I was interviewing with at the time was in retail. And shortly after I would have started in the role, if I was the candidate that got the job, half of the employees were laid off and half of the retail locations had closed due to COVID. So I am so glad, hindsight again is 2020, and I'm so glad I ended up staying at such a stable organization through COVID, and the organization was exceeding performance. The stock price was climbing, and I had a really safe and secure role where I felt comfortable. So keep in mind that COVID lockdown happened just weeks after these 2 rejections that I received. So the second opportunity was in healthcare. It was running the recruitment team at a very large Toronto hospital, and it seemed like a dream job. But guess what? I interviewed with them again 2 weeks before the shutdown. And after that happened and I didn't get the role, knowing what I know about the pandemic now, I was so happy that I also didn't get that opportunity. In that role, I would have had to be on site every single day, right? To support the doctors, the nurses, and being on site every day during that time when my son was little and my mom was over at our house every single day watching him, that would have been extremely scary for me. And in that era, we were wiping our groceries, right? I am such a germaphobe when it comes to the people being sick around me. And seriously, at this time, I probably would not have been able to handle that kind of stress, and it would not have been good for me. I cannot imagine being in a role through the probationary period where you're making relationships, you're trying to, build strong relationships, give it your all, make an incredible first impression, doing that while everything was unfolding throughout the world. So at that time, if you remember March 2020, it was just such a scary time. We didn't have a lot of information. Some of us thought the world was ending. right? So with that, I am so glad I actually didn't get either one of those opportunities. And I ended up staying with such a stable organization where safety was like the number one priority at the time. So instead, I had a fully remote role that was effortless. I was safe. I got to spend time with my family during that time. My husband and I were both working from home. Our son was home, had childcare. And even though I was crushed, I didn't know it at the time. Like it took me 6 months later to realize how truly lucky I was and blessed that I was rejected. So here's an affirmation that you can use. Every rejection directs me closer to my destiny. And I know that this is true for you as well. Okay. I also know rejection means that you're putting yourself out there. You are in the game, right? You are applying. You are trying to go after your dreams. And every no is really a step closer to the right yes. So think of that rejection and reframe it as not rejection, but an actual learning opportunity instead of a full halt stop sign. So when we are in an experience like this, it's so easy to spiral into that self-doubt. And that's exactly what I did, right? Am I good enough? Will I ever land a director job? And here's what I want you to think about instead. It's a sign that the opportunity wasn't aligned with you. Maybe the company wasn't a great fit. Maybe it would have been a toxic boss. Maybe it's not the right role for you for whatever reason. So the universe or life or fate or whatever it is that you believe in has a way of clearing the wrong things out of our path to make space for what is right. Here's a reframe action step that you can take. It's 3 steps. So if you feel like you have been rejected, if it was recently, maybe with an application, maybe you're getting a ton of auto rejection emails as well, this is super applicable. So after that no, here's what I want you to do and follow this plan forward with confidence. Okay, so first, I want you to acknowledge your effort. Write down the things that went super well through the process. Just because the end result wasn't exactly what you signed up for, this is good preparation, right? So think back to how you presented yourself. Think back to 3 things that had gone well through the process that will help you in your future. Second, identify this as a growth opportunity. I also want you to reflect and see, was there something that you'd like to bring with you as a lesson going forward? Right? So I remember when I was interviewing, I could not sleep. I had all these thoughts and I would stay up at night thinking about what I should have said that I didn't say. And there were things that were not perfect, right? Overall, I thought they had gone well, but in the end, there were so many things that I can improve. And I took every single one of those lessons in with me to the next set of interviews where I did end up getting the job. And third, I want you to refocus your strategy and then keep going. So set an action goal for yourself this week. So I know that it's so easy to lose momentum, right? When you've applied and you're getting rejected and it just seems like, why should I even bother? This is going to take so long. It's not very motivating, right? It's sort of like the health analogy. If you thought you'd work out every single day so hard, but never see a result for yourself, you probably would stop going to the gym. Right? And this is the same with job search. So I want you to set an actionable goal for this week to keep going, whether it's taking a step back with your interviewing skills, refining them, tailoring your resume, practicing your pitch came up for you in that reflection. I want you to apply and I want you to just come up with one step that you can use to move forward this week. And if you're sitting here and you're like, I don't know where I'm going wrong, but something is not clicking in my job search, then I've got you. I have a free masterclass that you can just swipe up and link to in the show notes. Inside, I go through resume tips, interview tips, and everything you need to fast track your search. There are 2 versions in the show notes, one specifically for you if you're an HR professional, and another one that is specific to all industries, whether you're in marketing, finance, any roles. Now, the last thing on this point that I really want to leave you with is you want to take this time to realign your strategy because you don't want to show up burnt out to the job search. When you show up with a burnt out energy and you feel defeated and you feel like nothing's going right, that is going to translate in the interview, either through you sounding a little bit desperate for the opportunity, which is not an energy also that translates to offers, or people will feel that negativity. And hiring managers, recruiters, the truth is they want to speak to someone positive who they want to see every single day, right? They are making a decision on who they get to work with. They are picking their team, and hiring managers are really drawn to people that are resilient, that are positive, that, tell each story with that optimism. So recharging, taking a step back, realigning your strategy, understanding what went well, what didn't is so, so important for you to be able to show up as the best version of yourself in interviews. And truthfully, this is what will get you closer, so much closer to that offer. All right. Now let's talk about feedback. So feedback is one of those things when we hear a no for the opportunity, we don't often get genuine, real feedback. And I want to break down why this happens. So legally, there is actually really only one reason you could not get that job, right? And it's that we went with a most qualified candidate. We went with a candidate who is more qualified. So that is truly like the only legal reason that a company can give. So if you're looking externally for that validation or feedback, what you're often going to hear is, you did amazing, but we went with someone more qualified. Now, it's not that the company wants to steer you wrong or they want to hurt you or they don't want to share the details with you, but what ends up happening is that they share this generic response that isn't actionable, right? With someone else being more qualified, you can't actually action that at all. You can only control yourself. And that is often partly true. And there's a lot more to this story. There may have been something that was said. There might have been somewhere where they didn't feel that level experience because it was the way it was explained. So there's so much more that goes into a hiring decision. But that feedback, if you've heard, you know what, we just went with a more qualified candidate, there's always more to that story. And the way you really know, the only other person that was there, I wasn't there, you were there, right? So in those interviews, you have the hiring manager or recruiter that was there, but you are also there and you have an opportunity, a really unique point of view to step back and really reflect on like what it could have been, even if you don't get that feedback, to know exactly where you need to improve. Next, I want you to have unshakable confidence that what is meant for you is coming your way, because the right role is coming. It has to, because everything always works out. Everything happens for a reason, and you will not be presented with an opportunity that is not aligned. And it's not just me. So my clients, once they actually land that role, they understand why in the past it never worked out for them. So I want to share another story to inspire you, because it is not just me. This happens every single day with my clients. So my client, Ashley, she was inside of the HR Star group coaching program, and she was having a challenging time. She went to so many interviews in a short time, and she was speaking to all of these organizations. She could see herself at any one of them. And then afterwards, she ended up getting a dream offer that was in every way more aligned and exactly what she wanted. It checked all the boxes. She got a 40% salary increase. It was fully work from home. It was the exact industry she had worked in and was dying to get into, but it was more challenging at the time. An offer that was a no-brainer, and it was incredible. And instantly, like her aura coming into this call and telling the others, there were like 7 other people there that day on the call, and she shared with her peers, and it inspired all of them. Like I could see the way she was sitting up was straighter, and like everyone was so motivated hearing this story. And she realized that she instantly knew why it didn't work out with all of the others, because she was meant for this opportunity. So if you are also going through those rejection cycles, I want you to keep me and also Ashley in mind if you've also gone through challenging times in your search. And if you're having a difficult time with the applications, with the interviews, I want you to envision me and Ashley. Because that's exactly what happened with me as well. Once I got the right opportunity, it just fell in my lap. It was simple. That's a story for another day. I'd love to break that down in one of the next episodes and talk about how LinkedIn helped me land that dream director role that just came to me. And there are no mistakes. You are listening to this right now for a reason. It is not by accident, and you are meant to hear a message here, another action step for you. After every interview that you didn't get, I want you to reframe the rejection because again, it's redirection. I'm going to keep saying that because I believe in this so much. So I want you to answer this question. How might this rejection actually be protecting you from something or leading you to a better opportunity? Let me say that again. How might this rejection actually be protecting me or redirecting me to a better opportunity? Now, you know what it was for me. I understand like one organization was literally on the brink of bankruptcy and they ended up closing half of their stores and letting go half of their people. I probably would have been impacted because I was so new at the time. And the other was in healthcare where I would have spent my days completely stressed out on whether or not I would catch COVID. This was March 2020 when very scary, very up in the air. And I wouldn't have wanted to put my small child and my mom at risk. So I want you to write that down because this will help guide your mindset and guide you closer to what is meant for you. All right. So moving into the very last step in this process, I want you to also keep moving forward. So rejection hurts. It sucks. I have been there. It's the worst. But the worst thing you can do is to stop trying. I want you to take the time you need to regroup, to refocus, to do that mindset work that we just talked about, to ask yourself those questions. And then I want you to get up motivated. I want your confidence to get dusted off and I want you to keep going because you are not the type of person who quits on their dreams. I know that because you are here listening to this and the right next opportunity is waiting for you, but you need to keep doing the work. You need to take action. You need to keep moving forward. So here's your action step. Set one actionable goal today. It could be reaching out to a recruiter. It could be updating your LinkedIn profile. It could be applying to a new role. Or maybe it's deciding to get support with your search so that you can enjoy the job search process. It can go smoother. You can get transparent feedback on why you may be not passing those interviews. And I want you to make progress because no matter how small, that progress is going to keep the momentum moving. So I actually completely stopped my job search back in 2020. So when that happened, COVID hit, I used that as an excuse and I didn't apply again. But I actually really regret that decision because I let myself stop and stall my dreams for way too long. Like, yes, the pandemic was a fairly good excuse to pause and reflect and see kind of how things shake up. I actually ended up staying with that company for way too long because I was comfortable and I could have instead taken the time to learn, to grow, to reach my full potential. And instead, what I felt like in that role, even though, yes, I was safe and I was comfortable, I felt like I was in a rut. I also felt like every aspect of my life, home, my family, my relationships, my friends were thriving except my career. And I was truly embarrassed to be stuck in the role that I was stuck in. And that's a feeling that I carried with me every single day, whether or not I wanted to admit it or not to myself. So I wasn't learning. I wasn't growing. I was in a rut, and being bored to me is worse than feeling burnt out. Because at least when I'm busy, I'm doing things, feel like I'm heading in the right direction instead of that decay feeling of moving backwards. So I felt like I was wasting my time not moving forward on my goals. And if you know from listening to the other podcast episodes, I know that time is our most valuable asset that we have in the world. It is something we can never get back, and it is so precious. But of course, hindsight's 2020. We learn by looking backwards at what we've done. And now I'm here with you sharing this lesson to keep going. Set a small action today for what is going to move you forward, whether it's updating your resume, watching my free masterclass, deciding to get support so that you don't spend the next 8 months in the exact spot that you're in today and maybe spinning your wheels and spending too long in conversations that are not leading to off. And if you're putting up your hand and you're like, Irina, this is me, I need to do something different, then amazing. In the show notes, I have a free resource for you that you can literally watch today. It's 90 minutes. It's my free masterclass. And I'm going to break down step by step what you need to do with your resume, with your interviews to really land that role so much faster, because momentum is key. Let's get you back on track and feeling like you are moving towards the dream career that you have been craving. Okay, so I know we covered a lot today. So just to recap, first, I want you to reframe rejection as redirection. Next, I want you to have the unshakable confidence that what is meant for you is coming your way. And then I also want you to keep moving forward. So take the action to move forward towards your dreams. Okay. If this episode gave you clarity or motivation or a nudge to keep moving forward, I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love for you to leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, because it helps to reach more people. I would love for you to leave a review for this podcast. It helps me to reach more people that may need to hear this message as well. And it just takes a minute, but it makes a huge difference. And I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And by leaving a review, you'll be entered to win a one-on-one coaching session with me, because your next step deserves personalized support. So thank you for being part of this journey, and I will see you in the next episode. Hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed listening to today's show, I would love your support. Please take a moment to leave a review anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And here's the exciting part. I'm running a special contest and giving away a one-on-one session with yours truly. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and send it to me in my DMs. All of my contact info is in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to build the career and life that you've been craving together. See you next week.